Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 6th day of February, 2020. Well, this is going to go up a little bit later than normal. We got up late. I don't even know. We just got up a few minutes ago. I don't know what happened. So, in any event, I'm trying to get ready here and make sure everything's just so and not have this happen in the afternoon. So, in any event, I try to do these in the morning, but sometimes, I don't know, life gets in the way and I don't realize it. So, in any event, Moon's in the third house in Cancer right now, focuses on home and hearth as well as harmonious communication. There's an opposition between the Moon and Jupiter, however, you're going to want to show some restraint. And Jupiter is about expansion. And so everything gets bigger no matter what it is. And, negative, positive, doesn't matter. Things just get bigger and more expansive when Jupiter gets into the middle of things and so starts affecting things. And so sometimes your behavior can be a little too much and people are just not comfortable with it. So that maybe you're too chatty or something. I don't know, whatever. Just avoids, really excessive behavior today. Don't get in a flow. Because maybe it's a little unrestrained. So, Sun's still in the 11th house in Aquarius, again, unconventional relationships. Semi-square Chiron, though, easier to withdraw from situations when self-expression is hindered or if you feel inhibited. So there may be the tendency to want to pull back, if you perceive, things aren't, the way you might want them to be. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's really happening. It could be more a function of your own perception here. My tea is still a little hot, so we'll wait a little bit on that. Mercury, 11th house in Pisces, still, again, friendships are important. Intuition is strong. And that's going to come into play here with the trine between Mercury and the North Node. Be sure that you understand the underlying message of what's really going on. Intuition is going to help you there. This is a message of, also for empaths to be aware, to feel in, but at the same time, stay back, keep your focus back and in the observer mode and don't allow yourself to absorb anything. If at all possible, shield, do whatever you have to do. But stay focused on what you know, particularly if you're intuitive or empathic, or if you feel like you just know something is right. It likely is. But the other thing you need to be aware of is sometimes the outward appearance of things are opposite from what the underlying message actually is. So somebody may be expressing themselves in an outward way, particularly with the Moon and Jupiter, the opposition with the Moon and Jupiter. They could be showing something outwardly that really does not reflect what they're feeling. And so you may need to sort of read between the lines a little bit today with people or with someone, and maybe even yourself, where, how you're expressing yourself really does not reflect how you feel. So, excuse me. Let's see, Mercury sextile the ascendant, which is in Taurus. You could receive a whole lot of information right now. Maybe a bunch of emails, maybe a bunch of communication from other people. I tried to open both my email accounts before starting, and it was just taking too long. So I just, the heck with it. I don't even need to know till after this. So it's like, oh no, what's coming in? How much work do I have to do today? Venus, 12th house in Pisces, inner reflection again today to achieve balance is recommended. Mars, still 8th house Sagittarius, surrounding shared resources. Let's see, making sure everything's in balance there. Let's see, Jupiter, 9th house Capricorn, still. Life takes on meaning as we search for new experiences and more doors open, which is good because Saturn's still in the 10th house in Capricorn. So we're going to be reassessing the important areas of our life, either home, career, relationships, pretty much anything. Conjunct with Pluto is still in effect. Things that were once stable are now in flux. And just let go of what doesn't serve and, stay positive, move toward things that are positive. Uranus, still 12th house Taurus, break free from deception and anything holding you back. That's still in effect, and that's been in effect for a while. Think outside the box. Time to think outside the box, and intuition is pronounced now. Well, actually, no, it was in the first house in Taurus before. Now it's in the 12th. So this part's actually new today. I try to bold that stuff so it triggers my memory here. But yeah, that's actually new. I think it was in the 12th. It was in the first house yesterday. But now you really, and that's important because it's relating to the semi-square with Neptune, which is still in effect. Guard against deception or the long played con. Yeah, we're really in that right now, aren't we? Where a big con's going on. And when that's happening to us all collectively. Now, whether or not that's happening to you or whether you're expressing that sort of thing, it's not going to serve you if you are. And it's going to, I did a pendulum on that, and it just said that what happened today was a bridge too far, and that's going to backfire, and it's not going to yield what he wants. And so, again, the con eventually goes too far, and it when it gets out and it's arrogant and it's in your face, then that's when the people that maybe were reluctant to believe it before really can't ignore it anymore. There's a conjunct with the ascendant between Uranus and the ascendant right now, and again, that's in Taurus. But what we're talking about there is some some unrestrained change, and maybe a willingness, to do that. I just think that there's a lot going on again under the surface right now, and we need to be very, very careful about what decisions we make about it, particularly if this is in our personal lives. There could be things that are at play that we don't realize that are there for our benefit. We're in a 22 year, and that's a soul energy year. Soul is not going to give purchase to the needs of the ego. Soul, on the other hand, will transmute the ego, will provide that avenue to transmute the dark forces that the ego can create, and that's what's happening right now. But we need to be aware that there's something beneficial that's helping us, and that's going to keep us on the path that we need to be on. What we're witnessing now is the example of what we don't want, the example of all that is wrong with the world and all that is wrong in our lives. And so we need to take a look at that and let go of the things that don't serve us and move on into something that does. And the soul bends toward unification and harmony. We are all one, in non-physical form. Only a small portion of our energy is focused into bodies. And so the remainder is out there in that, unfettered joy of collective consciousness, you see. And I think having the 22 year now, we're just, sources saying, well, okay, enough's enough. Goddess is saying, yeah, okay, get out of the way. We're going to take over, and we're going to get things going in the right direction. So hopefully that's what we're seeing here. We have a 6 energy today, so that's higher self. It's a 2 month, and so balance, coming back into balance, rebalancing things. But although dark forces will continue to try to blame everyone else for all of the things that they're causing, the fact is that the dark forces are the ones that are causing this. It's not, they are the deep state, if you will. It's the preservation of the oligarchy, and that's what's happening now. Whatever is left for the mass population is not there now. It's gone. And it's going to have to take a whole other group of folks to bring that back. So I suspect that's what will happen, but we'll see. You just don't know how strong this is. Maybe we need to contend with this nastiness and vitriol a while longer to really drive home the fact that this isn't what we want. So in any event, let's go ahead and get started and take our first 3 cards and see what we have today. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you so much for coming by. We talk a little bit about the astrology of the day and both how it affects us collectively and individually. Unfortunately, I would like to just talk about it individually, but right now there's too much of the collective that's affecting us. So unfortunately, we got to spend a little time blending the two. So in any event, I'm going to take the 13th card each time for randomness sake, and we'll do 3. If we need a 4th, we will. Last week, we went crazy and did a 5th, and then we'll take a rune from the Elder Futhark bag, and we'll close out with a geomancy rune. So, and that really brings it in, sort of the underlying message of it all, or what the premise of everything is, or sometimes it's an outlier that we need to pay attention to. So let's go ahead and take our first card. On this Jupiter day, this Thursday, where things are big and expansive, the sun's out. I don't know, it's 54 degrees out. I don't know what happened. Then we're supposed to go down a little bit lower for a while. We've got 2 days of in the 50s, and then it's going to start getting colder again. So anyway, we have justice again. I think did we have this yesterday or the day before? We had this week already. So we'll see if that's going to be the focal point of what informs, or if we're going to get another one, another major card. Anytime you see a major card, card from the major arcana, you're talking soul archetype, you're talking about higher self-influences, and in this case, it's the message of justice and fairness and balance. It's also the 11th card, which is a master number for illumination. Well, here we have the 3 of Pentacles. I love this card. I love the masonry. I love the arches. I love the appreciation that's felt with it. Walking by and admiring someone's work, and, maybe going to hire them or something, but it's just an interesting thing to be working your trade or whatever. And then, if somebody compliments something I've written, or, says something nice about a book I've done or whatever, it's like, oh, wow, thank you. Makes you feel good. Because if you're just a normal writer like I am, you don't you actually don't have a steady stream of income coming in from it. So basically, you don't have that type of reinforcement that's monetary to say, yeah, you did a good job. We're still employing you or whatever. So this way, it's just I'll write something. It's like, did anybody notice? So the plight of the author, the plight of the writer, the plight of the blogger. Knight of Wands. So, okay, we might need a 4th card, but we're going to put justice in the middle. And we're going to talk about, well, I think probably from the standpoint of, I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, I think we might need a 4th card, because I'm looking for something in my cheat sheet here to see whether or not there's something that, well, I mean, I guess the simplest one, we can do it this way. Okay. Here we have equality and fairness and maybe a positive legal outcome, but bringing things into balance. We see the traditional theme in tarot of the 2 pillars. It's actually part of whatever. Well, I don't know that it's part of a throne necessarily. It sort of looks like it, but I don't think so. And then you see the red drape behind, and Lady Justice is wearing red. So you see fire here, but you also see air. So you see both will and intellect, and really that's what justice is all about. It's about bringing will and intellect into balance, because if you think about, what's really a court case about? You've got somebody's will who's gotten out of hand and done something that now someone else, either the state or the county or an individual, has to then respond to and bring things back into balance. You have the law. It's at work. You present your case, and so you're weighing out the issues, and so you have both air, which is intellect and reason and balance and all of that, versus will. And so that's why you see, also, I mean, you would think this would just be a card of air, but in fact, it's also a card of fire. But we see the sword in the right hand of strength, pointed up to spirit. We see the left hand, the receptive side of self, bringing things into balance. And given that it's the 11th card of the major arcana, you're looking at 11 energy again, which is the master number for illumination. So that's definitely a soul archetype card. That is that the soul is then saying, we shall remain in balance and in harmony with one another, while in form that doesn't happen. But here, what are we balancing? We're balancing home and hearth, which I believe today we were talking about that, weren't we? Yep, Moon in the third house in Capricorn focuses on home and hearth, as well as harmonious communication. Well, you have that here. And this indicates it might be harmonious communication then surrounding your career. If, in fact, new messages are going to be coming in today, like the astrology says, then odds are you could be getting maybe some new requests for work. New job orders could be coming in for you. On the other hand, like with the Knight of Wands, you may feel the need to go and explore, develop something new as well. We saw that with, where did we see that with? Saturn in the 10th house in Capricorn, reassessment of important areas of life, career, advancement could be possible. Yeah, I mean, I think that we're looking at other options here. In this case, he's gone to Egypt, to the Holy Land. Maybe he's taking Robert the Bruce's heart back to Jerusalem, to the Holy Land. I'm related to both the person who did that and to Robert the Bruce. So it's so fascinating when you do your ancestry, because you see what people write, because you're adding more to yours from other ancestry accounts and that have figured out, that are also related to the person. So you get to find out, who they say their kids were and who they say they were married to and all of that. And you got to try to figure out, okay, which one's right, and so sometimes you have some alternatives, but that you include just in case. Because you're really, you don't want to do away with all the effort you've created on both sides, right? So you want to keep it all there. So you put them as alternative children, alternative spouses, and things like that. Because you might find later on that it's really that one is the real one, right? But sometimes you'll see how they died, and it's not pretty. I went looking for witches, and I found the Mother Lode, and I also found the royalty and the Merovingians and all of that stuff, and being married, being related to the Blessed Virgin and all of that, and Solomon, and all the way back to Adam. So it was a shock, frankly. I just went looking for witches on my mother's side, and I found them on the paternal side. So I don't know. I can't get anywhere further back than my grandmother's parents, and I can't find any on her mother's side after that, and I'm not sure on the dad's, because again, we've got two different possibilities, both Ireland and England, and I just don't know that it's England, but that's where I'm getting the most information, so I've just stopped. I don't think it's right. So in any event, so if anyone is my relative out there and knows which one it is, leave a comment, please, and then I'll let me know which one it is, because my aunt who was doing ancestry, she's passed, and so I can't ask her. So anyhow, let's do another card though and see what really is going on here. Sometimes, things aren't as clear as they need to be. But it looks like we're in kind of a positive area astrological-wise. So here we have the Three of Cups, and we see friends together in celebration, abundance, harmony. You can also think of it in terms of mind, body, spirit, coming into alignment. Now, if this is bending toward justice, then I think that what we have here, again, 3 and 3 is 6, so that aligns with the energy for today. So we have some really interesting harmony going on here. I think that it's reinforcing a new positive direction here, but one that's based on justice and maybe a new approach. So now that we know, if this is about what we're dealing with collectively, we'll start there. Now that we know what the outcome there is, it was expected, as horrific as it is, to watch people, to have only one Republican senator who is now being vilified and being attacked and is going to be gone after by, the guy in question. He's going to go after everybody now. This is what happens when you don't do your jobs and you let a criminal go. This is just what happens. And so none of this should be surprising. If we thought that his behavior was outrageous before, it's only going to get worse now. So we need a new way forward. We need some new energy. We need to take the bull by the horns or the horse by the reins. And we need to press on, and we need to press on in unity. If he is not going to behave himself, then we need to. So now, if this is about something that you've been dealing with, if things have been out of alignment, maybe there was some kind of a conflict you were having, maybe it was legal in nature. It looks like it's going to come into your favor now, whatever was happening. It looks like it's going to go in your favor, and things are going to settle down and come more into alignment, more based on justice. Things are going to settle out and maybe be a little more fair for you right now. The opportunity, one of the things that we talked about, Uranus, breaking free, 12th house Taurus, break free from deception and anything holding you back right now. Think outside the box, because intuition is pronounced now. Time to come back into alignment so that we can move forward. We're going to have to. If we don't preserve that sense of unity, if we don't preserve that sense of harmony, if we don't make that the focus, then, I don't know. Then the bad people win, I guess. I don't know. The people that want to live in conflict and disunity and just be so nasty, I mean, I'm sorry that people spilled the beans on the guy, but they did. There were beans to spill. You can't then be mad at the people that did it. Well, I mean, although guys like him usually are, that's usually what happens. But here we're talking Athala, 24th rune of the Elder Futhark, and I'm going to draw this for you because this is, I mean, it's the last rune of the Elder Futhark, but it's about, ancestry and tradition and home and just coming into the end of the realization of everything that you've learned. But again, it's the Akashic record. It's everything about who we are in this particular incarnation. But the other thing that it is initially, it's comprised of Ingus and Gebo. But from there, if you've been here before when I've done this about Othala, we have Kenaz in all directions. So it's the light of spirit in all directions. It's almost like when you come to the end of your journey, you're not only expressing outward back into the collective consciousness, back into just your soul body, just into the being of light. But then you're also going to come back in. And so you need that same type of soul energy to do that with. So in this 22 year, I mean, it'd be more interesting if they're just 22 runes and this was the 22nd, but Ingus is the 22nd rune, I believe, isn't it? Let me look just to be sure. I'm going to shoot my mouth off here. Yeah, it is. And Gebo is the 7th. And so Ingus being the cosmic builder number, basically, right? It's about our genetic, it's the seed, it's the sudden expansion from within. And you see all of that energy, the genesis of Ingus is source energy exploding from within, or if you want to say, you could also go say it's imbuing this way. But then it explodes outward, doesn't it? Into balanced energy exchange with others, hopefully. I mean, the ego gets a hold of it, and that's not what happens, right? But that's ideally what needs to happen. So, although the dark forces are strong right now, and have been for some time, the lights returned this year. We had an 11 year in 2018, where we learned an awful lot, didn't we? We had a 3 year in 2019, where we started catalyzing all of that, bringing it all into some kind of focus, resulting in, a big change at the end of the year, perhaps, individually as well as collectively. Something big and extraordinary happened. And now we see the fulfillment of that, a couple months later, month and a half later. We're starting to see that come to a fulfillment. And now we know what the playing field is. And so we can take the bull by the horns or the horse by the reins. And again, reminiscent of Rado, or rider and horse, and rhythmic harmony with others, integration with others, with an eye toward who we are collectively. He's not going toward the future. He's sort of in the present moment, but yet securing what we had in the past. So there's a sense of rebuilding with this guy, the energy for that, to rebuild the balance and justice that we've lost here, so that we can then come back into harmony with other people, and that we can get on with things. Let's take a look and see what the Geomancy rune has to say. We're doing pretty good on time. Okay, so where is my fire? Is this it? No, that's water. That's air, that's earth. No, that's fire. There's earth. Oh. Yeah, okay. So we have some little boy energy here today. Some unstable little boy energy. We have Pure. The opposite of that is Puella. Both are young energies, so they're got a little lack of impulse control. Puella is more of a flighty girl. I was a Puella growing up. My mother used to call me flighty all the time because I just was, everywhere. But this is Pure. Active principles in fire and air, a passive in water, and an active in earth. It's a Mars in, is it a Mars in Scorpio energy? Well, if it is, it's just showing you that it's, whereas Puella is like a Venus, I think, in Libra. So you can see Libra and Mars, or Libra and Scorpio are kind of, you've got a little more balance, a little more, not quite as unrestrained, a little more sense about Puella than there is with, I had boys, so, and they were good kids. I really didn't have any real issues with my boys, ever. They just, were who they were. But, sometimes, especially the younger one would get a little unrestrained in what he did, and he'd be a little secretive about it, but, it just, it's the lack of impulse control just of youth, where you lack the information that you need. And so you could say then with Pure that maybe it's at the heart of what happened here. Maybe, if we're going through something in our personal lives where we're having to now, things are starting to settle out, maybe the underlying energy was just, erratic, unrestrained little boy energy, that everything got the better of everybody else. They were reacting. They weren't using intellect. They didn't have the maturity necessary, to see. They got caught up or whatever. And now that it's all settled out and we can see just the ugliness of what it was, it's like, oh no, let's reject that. Let's bring everything back into balance. Let's go back to who we were. And let's just get going again on the path that maybe it'll technically be a new path, but maybe it's more like the one we were on together, to where we can enjoy one another's company again, and we can just get back to the basics of life, of home and hearth again. Moon is in the third house in Cancer, focuses on home and hearth as well as harmonious communication. Well, certainly that's what we have here. Is it a new direction? Sort of, but not really. It's familiar territory. It's familiar ground, but it's one that's based on reason and justice, and with an eye toward, who we are collectively. Again, when you start to look at the runes from the standpoint of what other runes are contained within these, an amazing dimension opens up for you. You start to really understand, the energy of them. They're very much the same soul archetype sigils, if you will, in the same way that the major arcana is a soul archetype type of experience. And I think that having Othala be the rune for today, I think it's really showing us that the importance of tradition, the importance of the unity consciousness that we all actually are, and that we need to come from that standpoint. We need to understand that the light of spirit is informing everything if we would just listen. Senator Romney did. And blessings to him. It was tough. It was emotional. It likely ended his Senate career, but maybe not. Mormons are interesting people. My husband comes from a Mormon family. He isn't Mormon, but he comes from a Mormon family, and we've done the ancestry, and they're one of the original, they're related, right? To when, I don't think he's related directly to Joseph Smith, but maybe, I'm not sure. I don't think so though. But I read a little bit about them, and I'll just say this real quickly before we close. Back when the Malheur nonsense was going on and the Bundys were up here, because that's just like a couple hours from me where that happened. And they're a different group of Mormons that, and I didn't know that, I knew about the fundamentalist ones that were polygamous and then the rest, but I didn't know that there was like a third group that feels differently about the government than they're the more sovereign citizen type of folks. They believe that way. And I didn't realize that. The rest of the bulk of the Mormons, I guess, though, are very patriotic and very, community conscious and civic minded and all of that. And the little contact I've had with Mormons in my life, I would say that that's true, just from the little contact I've had, and I've not had much. But the contact I've had, I would have been surprised if he hadn't done what he did, truly, because Mormons have a tendency to lift their faith. And, I realize we all have our failings and we all fall short, and I'm sure they do too, because we're human. But there was something about when he went up there, I just knew that he would do this, and he did. I didn't watch it until later. My husband did, though. And, we were both moved to tears by what he did for this country, that he stood up to the dark forces at work and said, no, I will not go there with you. So thank you for that. Thank you for not going there with them. Thank you for standing with the rest of us. Thank you for standing for honor and truth. And just thank you. So, in any event, this is Thursday. I won't see you again until Monday. Thank you so much for spending this time with me this week. I feel kind of like this reading is signaling a shift to something a little bit better. So hopefully these readings will take on a more personal focus at this point, and we can let that guy go away. Because it hasn't been fun, has it? To have to think this way, to have to think about the impact on our relationships. But sometimes the world affects them. And when it does, it comes into the tarot reading. It just does. It has to. So it helps to comprise the energies of our life. So why wouldn't it? You know, so, but I don't like to do it from just that standpoint. I think that we have to find a balance. And so, you know, we have to look at it from a personal standpoint as well, or we're lost. So in any event, have a good weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday. Check out the blog. There'll be stuff going up. Weekly Rune and Moon will be going up. Correspondences will go up today, and likely throughout the weekend. I am probably going to go ahead and do the second series, or the second video in the 3-part Rune series that I'm posting over on Patreon. Eventually, 3 weeks after I do it there, it's going to go live on YouTube. But right now, it's just for patrons over there on Patreon. And I was able to figure out how to switch the tiers off and just have people pay whatever they want. It's like one of those Occam's razor moments where the simplest is like, well, geez, what if I just did this? Sure enough, there it was. It just doesn't give you it as an option to pay whatever you want to. But I knew it was possible. So now it's pay whatever you want. I don't care, because I really don't. I just wanted to start something that could help defray blog costs. So it doesn't have to be, I don't have to earn a lot there. Not at all, just a little. So that would be lovely. So in any event, check that out. Check out the newsletter. Links will be below the video here, and have a wonderful weekend, and see you Monday. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.